In today's noisy world, silence has become rare. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, teaches us how to embrace silence for inner peace and self-control. Marcus Aurelius believed that silence can be more powerful than words, helping us grow and face life with confidence. Let's explore 9 situations where choosing silence can be life-changing. When criticized unfairly, Stoicism offers a powerful way to handle unfair criticism by encouraging reflection rather than reaction. While our instinct might be to defend ourselves immediately, Stoic philosophy suggests that we pause and consider our response. Often, it's not the criticism itself that causes pain, but how we interpret and react to it. Marcus Aurelius, a prominent Stoic philosopher, believed that we have control over how we view external events, and that includes how we deal with criticism. When someone criticizes us unjustly, our first reaction might be to defend ourselves or argue. This is especially true when the criticism feels personal or unfounded. However, Stoics remind us that reacting impulsively often leads to more harm than good. Defensive words can escalate conflict and create tension, leaving both parties feeling frustrated. On the other hand, responding with silence or a measured response can demonstrate inner strength and composure. By choosing not to react immediately, we give ourselves time to reflect. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our thoughts, reactions, and actions, rather than on the actions of others. If we take a moment to breathe and consider the criticism, we might find valuable insights within it. Or we may realize that the criticism says more about the other person than it does about us. Either way, a calm and thoughtful approach preserves our peace of mind and upholds our integrity. A practical example of this would be in a professional setting. Imagine you're leading a project at work and your boss harshly criticizes your efforts in front of others. Instead of reacting emotionally or defending yourself on the spot, Stoicism suggests that you listen carefully, analyze the feedback, and decide whether there's anything useful to take away. By doing so, you not only maintain your composure, but also earn respect for handling the situation with grace. Stoic philosopher Epictetus also emphasized that we should focus on controlling our internal state rather than external events. When criticized unfairly, we should remind ourselves that we cannot control how others perceive us, but we can control how we react to their perceptions. By not allowing criticism to disrupt our peace, we demonstrate a deeper level of self-mastery. In essence, Stoicism calls for a shift in how we view criticism. Instead of seeing it as an attack, we can see it as an opportunity for growth, or simply as an event that we don't need to give power to. By staying calm, we reflect strength and integrity, letting our actions speak louder than defensive words. Over time, this practice not only builds personal resilience, but also enhances our relationships with others by minimizing unnecessary conflict. In conclusion, when faced with unfair criticism, practice the Stoic approach. Pause, reflect, and respond with calm. This not only shields you from unnecessary emotional turmoil, but also strengthens your character, showing the world that your value isn't defined by external judgments, but by your own inner virtue. In the face of boasting. It's common to encounter people who boast about their achievements, material possessions, or personal successes. In moments like these, the temptation to counter their bragging with stories of your own accomplishments can be strong. After all, no one likes to feel overshadowed, and our natural response may be to restore balance by showcasing our own successes. However, Stoicism teaches a different, more thoughtful approach to handling these situations: restraint and silence. The Stoic perspective is that true confidence doesn't require constant validation from others. If we are secure in our achievements and our sense of self-worth, There's no need to engage in a back-and-forth comparison or try to one-up someone else's bragging. By remaining silent or responding minimally, we convey that our confidence is not dependent on others' recognition or approval. When someone boasts, it often reflects their own insecurities or desire for validation. They may be seeking approval, admiration, or even envy from those around them. Engaging in a competition of words, whether it's about career success, wealth, or personal victories, only feeds into this cycle of external validation. Instead, Stoicism reminds us that true contentment and confidence come from within, not from the approval of others. Remaining silent in the face of boasting can be a powerful statement. It signals that you are not swayed by external praise or the need to prove yourself. Silence in these moments reflects a quiet self-assurance that speaks volumes. It shows that you value your inner peace and composure more than the fleeting satisfaction of being right or appearing more successful. Consider a scenario at a social or professional gathering where a colleague is bragging about a recent promotion or a new luxury purchase. The instinctive reaction might be to share your own accomplishments, to prove that you're equally successful or deserving of praise. However, by staying silent or simply acknowledging their success with a polite nod or smile, you rise above the need for comparison. Your silence communicates that you are comfortable with who you are and don't require external validation to feel confident. This doesn't mean that Stoics view boasting as inherently wrong, but they do view the act of responding with boastful competition as a missed opportunity for self-mastery. Stoic philosopher Epictetus advised that we focus on our inner virtues and what we can control, our own actions and responses, rather than seeking external recognition. By practicing restraint in the face of someone else's bragging, we exercise control over our ego and avoid the pitfalls of unnecessary competition. Silence in these moments also allows us to observe and learn more about the people around us. Often, those who boast the loudest are revealing their own insecurities or areas where they feel inadequate. By listening without interrupting or trying to outshine them, we gain a deeper understanding of their motivations and desires. This understanding can lead to more empathetic and constructive interactions. Furthermore, practicing silence in the face of boasting promotes humility. Humility is a core Stoic virtue, and by refraining from self-promotion, we cultivate this trait within ourselves. We learn to find satisfaction in our own private victories and personal growth, rather than in public acknowledgement or praise. In the long run, those who practice restraint and silence in the face of boasting often earn more respect from their peers. While others may be caught up in the cycle of comparison and validation, those who remain grounded and confident in themselves project a sense of maturity and wisdom. They become seen as individuals who are secure in their abilities and accomplishments without needing to broadcast them. In conclusion, Stoicism teaches us that in moments of boasting, the most powerful response is often silence. By choosing not to engage in competitive conversations, we demonstrate self-confidence, emotional maturity, and humility. In doing so, we shift the focus from external validation to internal contentment, embracing a deeper sense of peace and self-worth that does not rely on the opinions or judgments of others. When anger is a powerful emotion that can easily overwhelm us, clouding our judgment and leading to actions or words we may later regret. In moments of intense anger, it can feel like a storm has taken over our thoughts, pushing us toward impulsive reactions. Stoicism, however, offers a clear path to handling anger with wisdom and control. Instead of letting this emotion dictate our actions, Stoic teachings encourage us to pause, reflect, and respond with intention. The Stoic philosophers recognized that anger, while a natural human response, often does more harm than good when left unchecked. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and renowned Stoic thinker, once wrote, "How much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the circumstances that aroused it in us?" This simple yet profound statement reminds us that it's not the external event that harms us most, but the way we react to it. In the heat of anger, our emotions can push us to say things we don't mean or take actions that may escalate a conflict. Whether it's a disagreement at work, an argument with a loved one, or frustration with a stranger, reacting in anger rarely leads to a positive outcome. Stoicism teaches that instead of immediately responding to these triggers, we should take a step back and allow time for reflection. Imagine a scenario where a colleague at work makes a mistake that causes you extra hours of effort. Your first instinct might be to lash out in frustration, voicing your anger with harsh words. But Stoic wisdom advises us to pause in moments like these. Before reacting, take a deep breath and give yourself time to assess the situation calmly. By doing this, you give your rational mind the space it needs to regain control, preventing the situation from spiraling out of control. One of the key Stoic practices when dealing with anger is cultivating awareness of our emotions. When we feel anger rising, instead of immediately giving into it, we should recognize the emotion for what it is, an impulse that doesn't have to dictate our actions. As Epictetus, another prominent Stoic philosopher, taught, "It is not the things themselves that disturb people, but the judgments they form about them." By changing how we perceive situations, we can transform our emotional responses. When anger arises, a Stoic approach would be to ask yourself a series of reflective questions. Is this situation worth my anger? Will reacting with anger improve the outcome, or will it make things worse? What alternative responses could I take that would lead to a more positive resolution? By questioning the value of anger, we often find that it's not as useful as it feels in the moment. This process of self-inquiry allows us to slow down and approach the situation with a clearer mind. Another aspect of Stoic philosophy that helps in managing anger is the concept of focusing on what we can control. We cannot control other people's actions, mistakes, or words, but we can always control how we respond to them. When someone else makes a mistake or treats us poorly, we can choose whether to let it provoke us. The Stoics remind us that true power lies in our ability to remain composed and in control of ourselves, even when external circumstances are frustrating or unjust. Taking time to pause before reacting not only prevents unnecessary conflict, but also fosters stronger relationships. When we react calmly, even in frustrating situations, we show others that we are capable of handling difficulties with grace and maturity. This, in turn, builds trust and respect with those around us, whether they are colleagues, friends, or family members. In contrast, anger-driven reactions often damage relationships and lead to regret later on. Furthermore, practicing restraint in moments of anger leads to greater inner peace. Anger, when it is allowed to fester or explode, can take a toll on our mental and physical well-being. The stress that comes with uncontrolled anger can harm our health and disrupt our ability to think clearly. By choosing not to give in to anger, we protect ourselves from the negative effects it can have on both our minds and bodies. Stoicism also teaches us to practice compassion and empathy, even when we're angry. By considering the perspective of the person who has triggered our anger, we may come to understand their intentions or struggles, making it easier to respond with patience instead of frustration. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize?" This Stoic exercise encourages humility and self-awareness, reminding us that we are all flawed and make mistakes. To manage anger effectively in the Stoic way, here are a few practical steps. Pause and breathe. When you feel anger rising, take a few deep breaths. This physical act helps calm your body and gives your mind time to catch up before reacting impulsively. Reflect on the source. Ask yourself why you are angry. Is it truly the situation at hand, or is it how you're perceiving the event? Could there be an alternative interpretation that makes the situation less aggravating? Focus on what you can control. Remember that you cannot control the actions of others, but you can control how you respond. Let go of the need to change what you can't influence. Practice empathy. Try to understand the perspective of the person who has upset you. Their actions may not be malicious, but simply a result of their own struggles or misunderstandings. Respond with calm. If a response is necessary, choose your words carefully and deliver them with composure. This not only preserves your integrity, but also diffuses tension, paving the way for a more constructive dialogue. In conclusion, anger is a natural emotion, but it doesn't have to control us. Stoicism provides us with tools to pause, reflect, and choose a more thoughtful, calm response. By practicing these techniques, we can avoid escalating conflicts, protect our inner peace, and improve our relationships. Over time, mastering the art of controlling our anger leads to a more peaceful and fulfilling life, rooted in wisdom and self-control. Amidst rumors. Rumors and gossip are an unfortunate part of life. Whether in the workplace, among friends, or even in our personal lives, we often find ourselves the subject of false stories and misinformation. These rumors can be damaging, leading to misunderstandings, tarnishing reputations, and causing unnecessary stress. However, Stoicism offers a powerful approach to navigating the chaos of gossip, remaining silent and letting the truth reveal itself over time. When we hear rumors about ourselves, the natural response might be to feel defensive or anxious, urging us to react and set the record straight immediately. Yet, Stoic philosophy encourages us to pause and resist the temptation to respond to every false accusation or piece of gossip. As Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and prominent Stoic philosopher, once said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own." This reflects a central Stoic belief that we should not let external judgments disturb our inner peace. Gossip is fueled by reactions. When someone spreads a rumor and we react with anger, defensiveness, or counter-arguments, we inadvertently give the rumor more life. The more attention we give it, the more it grows, as people become increasingly curious and involved. On the other hand, by choosing silence, we allow the rumor to fade away. Silence demonstrates a profound confidence in our own character. It shows that we don't need to justify ourselves to others, nor do we rely on their approval to validate our worth. Stoicism teaches that we should focus only on what is within our control, and rumors are not something we can always control. We cannot stop people from talking or spreading misinformation, but we can control how we respond. When faced with false rumors, rather than trying to correct every detail or confront every person involved, Stoics remind us to preserve our energy and peace of mind. The truth has a way of revealing itself, and time often exposes falsehoods without us needing to interfere. Consider the story of a teacher in a small town who was falsely accused of misconduct. Instead of addressing the rumors directly or trying to clear her name through public statements, she chose to remain silent and continue her work with integrity. Over time, the rumors lost their power because no substantial evidence emerged, and her quiet dignity spoke louder than any defense could. This approach highlights a key Stoic principle: maintaining control over your own actions and emotions, rather than being swayed by the opinions of others. In this way, silence in the face of rumors becomes an act of strength and self-mastery. It shows that you trust in the truth and in your own actions to ultimately speak for themselves. This doesn't mean that we allow lies to define us or that we accept slander. Instead, it reflects the wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to remain quiet. In many cases, silence can be more powerful than words. It shows that you are not rattled by the opinions of others, nor do you seek validation from external sources. Moreover, responding to rumors can sometimes lead to further complications. Engaging with gossip often invites more scrutiny, adding layers to the situation and making it more complex. By remaining silent, you allow the situation to remain simple, letting others' words fall away without creating additional conflicts or misunderstandings. People who spread rumors often seek attention or a reaction, and by not giving them what they want, you disempower them. Stoicism also emphasizes the importance of maintaining focus on our own virtues and values. In the face of rumors, we should continue living in accordance with our principles, letting our actions consistently reflect who we truly are. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned only these.'" This light-hearted response shows that we should not take rumors too seriously, as they often say more about the person spreading them than about the target. A key part of Stoicism is emotional resilience, and dealing with rumors provides an opportunity to practice this resilience. Instead of letting the words of others stir negative emotions like anger, anxiety, or sadness, we can choose to remain centered and composed. By controlling our emotional response to gossip, we maintain our sense of peace and avoid getting caught up in the emotional roller coaster that rumors often bring. This Stoic approach to rumors can also influence how others perceive us. By staying calm and not reacting impulsively, we show maturity and wisdom, which can earn us respect in the long term. Those around us will notice that we are not easily swayed by external opinions, and they may begin to question the validity of the rumors themselves. In contrast, those who respond defensively or aggressively to gossip can appear insecure, giving the rumors more credibility. Stoicism encourages us to let go of what we cannot control and to focus on the things we can influence, our thoughts, actions, and responses. When we are caught in the middle of rumors, this lesson becomes especially valuable. We cannot always control what people say about us, but we can control how we react. By choosing silence, we show that our peace of mind is not dependent on the opinions of others, but on our own self-awareness and values. In conclusion, rumors can be damaging, but Stoicism teaches us that our reaction to them is what truly matters. By remaining silent and letting the truth unfold naturally, we avoid escalating the situation and demonstrate confidence in our own character. Silence becomes a tool of strength and self-respect, showing that we are in control of our emotions and that we trust our actions to speak for themselves. Through this Stoic approach, we can navigate the chaos of gossip with grace and composure, preserving our inner peace while allowing the truth to emerge on its own. After a loss is one of the most painful experiences we can face, whether it's the death of a loved one, the end of a relationship, losing a job, or any significant personal setback. In these moments of grief, it can feel as though the world has been turned upside down, and the weight of the loss can be overwhelming. While it's natural to experience deep emotions during these times, Stoicism offers a unique perspective that encourages us to view loss as part of the natural cycle of life. Stoics believe that everything in life is temporary, and by embracing this understanding, we can find peace and personal growth, even in the face of loss. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is that we do not have control over external events, including loss. What we do have control over, however, is how we respond to these events. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is especially true when it comes to dealing with loss. Stoicism encourages us to reflect on the impermanence of life and to accept that loss is inevitable. Instead of resisting or denying our grief, we are encouraged to face it with courage and understanding, using silence as a way to process our emotions. Silence during grief is not about suppressing emotions or pretending the pain doesn't exist. Rather, it allows us the space to heal, reflect, and find meaning in the experience. When we lose something or someone important to us, it can be tempting to fill the void with distractions, busyness, or even anger. But Stoicism teaches that true healing comes from embracing the quiet moments of reflection, where we allow ourselves to fully feel the weight of our loss and come to terms with it. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, often wrote about the fleeting nature of life. He urged us to remember that everything and everyone we love is temporary, and that we should cherish the moments we have, while also accepting that they will come to an end. In his meditations, he said, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." By viewing loss as part of the constant change of life, we can shift our perspective from one of devastation to one of acceptance. This Stoic approach doesn't diminish the pain of loss, but helps us navigate it with more clarity. Instead of seeing loss as something unfair or catastrophic, we begin to understand that it is a natural part of existence. Everything in life, relationships, possessions, even life itself, comes and goes. By accepting this, we free ourselves from the suffering that comes from attachment to things that are, by nature, impermanent. For example, consider someone who has lost a loved one. Stoicism would encourage them to reflect on the beautiful memories shared with that person, appreciating the time they had together, while also recognizing that all lives come to an end. Instead of drowning in sorrow, a Stoic approach would be to honor the memory of the loved one while finding meaning in the continued cycle of life. As Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, wrote, "What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears." One powerful way to cope with loss through a Stoic lens is to practice the art of premeditatio malorum, which means premeditation of evils. This Stoic exercise involves regularly contemplating the possibility of loss before it happens. By imagining the loss of things we hold dear, whether it's a job, a loved one, or our health, we prepare ourselves mentally for the eventuality of loss. This practice isn't meant to make us fearful or pessimistic, but to help us develop resilience and appreciation for what we have in the present moment. Silence, in this context, plays a crucial role in allowing us the space for such reflection. When we stop trying to fill the silence with distractions or outward displays of grief, we create room for deeper introspection. This silence is not a void. It is a sanctuary where we can begin to heal and find peace. Through quiet contemplation, we can transform our pain into a source of personal growth, understanding, and even gratitude. Stoicism also encourages us to focus on what we can learn from loss. Every experience, no matter how painful, holds within it the potential for growth and wisdom. By reflecting on our loss in silence, we can ask ourselves meaningful questions. What can this loss teach me about life? How can it help me grow stronger? What values or lessons can I carry forward from this experience? In this way, loss becomes not just an end, but a transition that offers new insights and opportunities for growth. For instance, Losing a job can be devastating, but it might also provide an opportunity to reassess one's career path and pursue a more fulfilling direction. Losing a relationship might open the door to self-reflection, helping us better understand our own needs and values. Even in the case of death, Stoicism teaches that we can find meaning by reflecting on the transient beauty of life, the legacy of the person who has passed, and how their influence continues to shape our lives. Additionally, Stoicism emphasizes the importance of gratitude, even in the face of loss. Instead of dwelling on what we've lost, we are encouraged to focus on what remains and to be thankful for the time and experiences we had. This practice of gratitude can be deeply healing, helping us shift our mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance, even in times of grief. As Marcus Aurelius advised, take full account of what excellencies you possess, and in gratitude remember how you would hanker after them if you had them not. Another critical component of the Stoic response to loss is the idea of community and support. While Stoics value self-reliance and inner strength, they also recognize the importance of leaning on others during difficult times. Grief is not something we have to endure in isolation. By connecting with loved ones, sharing our feelings when we're ready, and seeking comfort in companionship, we find strength in collective healing. Seneca reminded us, "One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood." In conclusion, Stoicism offers a path through loss that is both compassionate and empowering. By embracing silence during grief, we allow ourselves the time and space to reflect, heal, and grow. We learn to accept the impermanence of life and find meaning in the inevitable changes that come with it. Through this process, we transform pain into a source of wisdom and resilience. Loss is a part of life, but how we respond to it defines our character and shapes our future. By adopting the Stoic approach of quiet reflection, acceptance, and gratitude, we can navigate loss with grace and emerge stronger on the other side. 6. When dealing with ignorance. In our daily lives, we often encounter situations where others display ignorance, whether it's a lack of knowledge, a stubborn refusal to understand, or even arrogance masking itself as wisdom. In these moments, it can be tempting to correct or argue with the person to set things right or prove that we are in the right. However, Stoic philosophy teaches us that staying silent in the face of ignorance can often be more powerful and beneficial than engaging in arguments. By choosing not to respond, we preserve our peace of mind, protect our energy, and continue to focus on what truly matters, our own growth and the path ahead. Ignorance can manifest in many forms. It might come from a person who makes uninformed comments, spreads misinformation, or holds stubbornly to misguided beliefs. It might also appear in someone who refuses to see a situation from a different perspective, or someone who is closed off to learning. In such instances, Stoicism encourages us to resist the urge to argue or correct them, especially when doing so would be futile or counterproductive. The Stoic mindset teaches us that not every battle is worth fighting, and that there is wisdom in recognizing when silence is the better response. When faced with ignorance, our instinct might be to immediately jump into a debate, armed with facts and logic to dismantle the other person's views. However, many times, people entrenched in ignorance are not open to hearing reason. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It is impossible to begin to learn that which one thinks one already knows." If a person believes they already know everything, then no amount of reasoning will change their mind. In such cases, engaging in a debate only leads to frustration, wasted energy, and often greater animosity. Instead, Stoicism offers a more peaceful solution: silence. By choosing not to engage, we avoid escalating the situation and preserve our inner tranquility. As Marcus Aurelius advised, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. When someone speaks from a place of ignorance, responding with wisdom and restraint demonstrates our maturity and control over our emotions. It shows that we are not swayed by external provocations or the need to prove ourselves right. Silence in the face of ignorance does not imply passivity or cowardice. Rather, it is a strategic decision to protect our mental and emotional well-being. Stoicism teaches that our primary focus should be on our own development, not on trying to change the minds of those who are unwilling to learn. When we engage with ignorance, we often end up lowering ourselves to the level of pointless argument, losing sight of the things that truly matter, our own growth, character, and peace of mind. Consider a scenario where you're involved in a discussion and someone makes an ignorant statement, whether it's about politics, science, or any other topic where their lack of understanding is evident. You might feel compelled to correct them or debate their views, but what would this achieve? More often than not, these discussions spiral into heated arguments, where both parties become more entrenched in their positions. The person speaking from ignorance is unlikely to change their mind, and you end up frustrated, drained, and perhaps even angry. By choosing silence, however, you rise above the noise, maintaining your calm and dignity. The power of silence lies in its ability to diffuse tension. When someone is being ignorant, they often expect a reaction, whether it's a counter-argument, anger, or frustration. By not giving them that reaction, you disarm them. Over time, they may begin to question their own views, or at the very least, they lose the satisfaction of provoking you. Silence, in this sense, is a subtle but powerful form of influence. It demonstrates self-control and emotional intelligence, traits that others often come to respect, even if they don't immediately acknowledge it. Moreover, Stoicism teaches us that we should focus on what we can control. We cannot control the thoughts, opinions, or beliefs of others, no matter how ignorant they may be. What we can control, however, is how we respond to them. Engaging in debates with those who are not willing to listen only pulls us into a situation where we expend energy on things beyond our control. By choosing not to engage, we reclaim that energy and direct it toward things we can influence, our own actions, thoughts, and responses. In situations where ignorance leads to false accusations or personal attacks, Stoicism encourages us to maintain our composure. When someone accuses us unjustly or makes baseless assumptions, our instinct might be to defend ourselves or retaliate. However, reacting emotionally to such attacks only gives them power. By staying silent, we let the truth speak for itself. Over time, people's true character and actions become clear, and those who engage in ignorance are often exposed by their own behavior. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best way to avenge yourself is not to become like the wrongdoer." By maintaining our own integrity and refusing to stoop to the level of ignorance, we demonstrate our strength of character. In addition to preserving our peace, silence also allows us to observe more closely. When we aren't caught up in the need to argue or prove our point, we can step back and gain a broader perspective. We may come to understand the root of the other person's ignorance. Perhaps it stems from a lack of education, personal bias, or past experiences. By silently observing, we can also determine whether the situation is worth addressing later in a more thoughtful and strategic way, rather than in the heat of the moment. It's important to note that Stoicism does not suggest we always remain silent in the face of ignorance, especially when it comes to issues of justice or moral importance. There are times when speaking up is necessary and the right thing to do. However, Stoicism teaches us to choose these battles wisely. Not every ignorant statement deserves a response, and not every argument needs to be won. We should save our energy for the moments that truly matter, where our words can have a meaningful impact. When dealing with ignorance, here are a few practical steps inspired by Stoic philosophy. Pause and reflect. Before reacting, take a moment to assess the situation. Ask yourself whether engaging in the conversation will lead to any productive outcome, or if it's better to remain silent. Focus on what you can control. Remind yourself that you cannot control other people's beliefs or opinions. What you can control is your response, and silence may be the most effective choice. Preserve your peace. Recognize that engaging with ignorance often leads to frustration and stress. By choosing not to engage, you protect your inner calm and well-being. Observe without judgment. Use silence as an opportunity to observe the other person's behavior and motivations. Understanding the root of their ignorance may provide you with insight into how to handle the situation in the future. Lead by example. Instead of arguing, demonstrate through your own actions and behavior what true wisdom and understanding look like. Over time, this may inspire others to reflect on their own ignorance. In conclusion, when faced with ignorance, silence can be a powerful tool. It allows us to maintain our composure, avoid unnecessary conflicts, and focus on our own path of growth. By not engaging, we demonstrate self-control, emotional intelligence, and wisdom, qualities that are central to the Stoic way of life. Ignorance will always exist, but our response to it defines our character. Through silence, we preserve our peace and stay true to our own values, ensuring that we continue to move forward without being derailed by the ignorance of others. 7. In response to injustice. Imagine yourself standing in the middle of a tense situation where someone is being treated unfairly. Maybe it's a colleague who is unfairly blamed for a mistake, a friend subjected to harmful rumors, or even a stranger experiencing bias or discrimination. Your initial instinct might be to react, to confront the injustice head-on with anger or outrage. But as the wisdom of Stoicism teaches us, this is a moment to pause and reflect, not rush into battle with unchecked emotions. Stoicism doesn't encourage us to ignore injustice or passively accept it. Instead, it calls on us to think carefully about how to respond in a way that aligns with wisdom and purpose. For Stoics, the principle of control is central. We can't always influence the external events that unfold around us, but we always have power over how we react to them. Injustice is one of the most challenging circumstances where this philosophy applies, yet it's also where it shows its greatest strength. Consider the life of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison during South Africa's apartheid era. Mandela, who had every reason to be consumed by anger and bitterness, chose instead to respond with patience and wisdom. When he was finally released, he didn't seek revenge against those who had oppressed him and his people. Instead, he advocated for reconciliation and unity. His actions embody a key Stoic principle, responding to injustice not with fury, but with thoughtful, deliberate action aimed at creating lasting change. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, also wrestled with this idea. As ruler, he witnessed countless injustices and had the power to make sweeping decisions in response. Yet in his meditations, he often wrote about the importance of maintaining inner calm and not letting external injustices consume his spirit. One of his famous reflections was, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." In this, Marcus was emphasizing that the greatest act of defiance against injustice is to not let it change who we are. Our dignity and virtue must remain intact, even when we are wronged. So, what does this look like in practice? Imagine you are at work, and a co-worker is unjustly blamed for a failed project. You could immediately jump to their defense with fiery words, risking escalating the situation into conflict. Or you could pause, assess the situation, and choose a path that leads to resolution rather than division. By gathering facts, supporting your colleague quietly but effectively, and addressing the situation calmly with leadership, you set a tone of fairness without adding fuel to the fire. In this way, silence doesn't mean inaction. It's the strategic space between an initial wrong and a measured response, a time to consider the most effective course of action. Silence in the face of injustice can be misinterpreted as indifference, but in the Stoic tradition, it is far from that. Stoicism teaches that silence can be the ground from which purposeful action grows. It is about waiting for the right moment to act, when emotions are tempered and the mind is clear. Think of it as preparing the soil before planting a seed. Without careful preparation, the seed may not take root. Likewise, reacting to injustice impulsively can often make the situation worse, whereas a measured response has the potential to create real change. An essential part of the Stoic approach to injustice is accepting what we cannot change while focusing on what we can. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, advised that when faced with something outside our control, we should direct our energy towards things within our power, our thoughts, our actions, and our ability to influence others. This doesn't mean we should ignore injustice. Instead, it encourages us to work within the reality of our limitations. Rather than becoming consumed by rage over the unfairness of the world, we can choose to act thoughtfully, influencing what we can to make things better. Consider a modern example, a protest against a systemic injustice, such as inequality or environmental destruction. Some protesters may become violent, venting their anger through destruction. But others, perhaps influenced by Stoic ideals, might remain peaceful, organizing, educating, and pushing for legislative change. Their silence in moments of provocation isn't a sign of weakness or acceptance, it's a sign of strength, a deliberate choice to channel their energy into something constructive. At the heart of the Stoic response to injustice is the belief that true power lies in self-control. When faced with wrongs, we can choose to retaliate with more wrongs, anger, violence, or bitterness, or we can take the higher road. Silence in these moments serves as a shield. It allows us to step back, think clearly, and decide on a course of action that aligns with our values rather than being driven by our emotions. For instance, when we witness racial, gender, or social injustices, we can choose to confront the issue by promoting education and understanding, rather than engaging in a battle of accusations. This approach not only helps diffuse immediate tensions, but also lays the groundwork for long-term solutions. Stoicism encourages us to see the bigger picture. It's not just about winning a momentary argument, but about fostering lasting change and maintaining our integrity in the process. Ultimately, Stoicism teaches that while we cannot control every injustice we encounter, we can always control our response. By choosing silence initially, we create the space to act with wisdom and purpose, ensuring that our actions come from a place of thoughtfulness, not emotion. This practice allows us to stand firm in the face of wrongs without being dragged down by them, ensuring that we remain true to our principles while working to make the world a more just place. In conclusion, when faced with injustice, Stoicism doesn't call for passivity or indifference, but instead encourages purposeful silence followed by wise action. It reminds us that while the world is often unfair, our power lies in our ability to respond with clarity, integrity, and strength. Through this approach, we not only confront injustice, but transform it into an opportunity for growth and positive change. 8. When insulted insults, whether they come from strangers, co-workers, friends, or even family, can sting. They can provoke anger, frustration, or a deep sense of hurt. However, Stoicism teaches us that insults only have the power we give them. By choosing not to respond or engage, we not only protect our inner peace, but also prevent unnecessary conflict. Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca emphasized that our reaction to an insult is what determines its impact on us, not the insult itself. One of the central tenets of Stoicism is the idea that external events, including insults, are beyond our control. What we can control, however, is how we perceive and react to those events. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that when someone insults us, we have the choice to let their words affect us or to view them as insignificant. The insult itself is neutral. It's our interpretation of it that gives it power. Imagine someone makes a hurtful comment about your appearance or abilities. The initial instinct might be to fire back with a cutting remark or to defend yourself. But reacting impulsively only fuels the conflict and gives the insult more importance than it deserves. In this way, you've allowed the insulter to have control over your emotions and your peace of mind. The Stoic response, on the other hand, is to pause, recognize the insult for what it is, a mere collection of words, and refuse to let it disturb your equilibrium. By doing so, you remain in control of yourself, showing that your worth and peace are not dictated by the opinions of others. Epictetus offers a practical way to deal with insults. He suggests that when someone insults you, consider whether what they say is true or false. If it's true, there is no need to be upset because the insult is simply a reflection of reality. If it's false, there's still no need to be upset because the insult is baseless and does not change who you are. This rational perspective allows us to detach from the emotional sting of the insult and respond, or not respond, with calmness and clarity. Furthermore, Stoicism teaches us the importance of emotional resilience. Resilience in this sense means having the strength to withstand emotional provocations like insults without losing our inner calm. When we are insulted, our ego often flares up, wanting to defend itself and prove the insulter wrong. But Stoicism advises us to resist this impulse. Instead of letting the insult dominate our emotions, we should remind ourselves that our worth is not diminished by someone's opinion. In fact, our ability to remain unbothered by insults is a sign of true strength and self-mastery. Consider the story of Socrates, the famous Greek philosopher, who was often the target of mockery and insults. Instead of reacting defensively, Socrates would calmly ask his insulters to clarify their point or simply respond with humor. He understood that the opinions of others did not define him, and by maintaining his composure, he disarmed his critics. His example illustrates the Stoic ideal, to rise above the pettiness of insults and remain centered in our own values. In a modern context, think about the workplace. If a colleague criticizes you unfairly or makes a sarcastic remark meant to belittle you, responding with anger or sarcasm in return only escalates the situation and might even damage your professional reputation. However, if you choose to remain calm and either ignore the remark or respond with measured composure, you demonstrate emotional maturity and professionalism. Over time, this kind of response earns respect and diffuses potential conflicts. It's important to recognize that responding with silence to insults doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or avoiding confrontation altogether. Instead, it's about making a deliberate choice not to react impulsively. By pausing and reflecting before responding, you give yourself the opportunity to evaluate the situation more clearly. Is the insult worth your time and energy? Will engaging in an argument improve the situation, or will it only escalate tensions? Often, the wisest choice is to let the insult pass without a reaction, allowing the insulter's words to lose their power. Silence in the face of insults also acts as a mirror. When someone insults you and you don't respond, it forces the other person to confront their own behavior. Without the fuel of your reaction, the insulter is left with their own words, which may lead them to reflect on their actions. This can often lead to a shift in the dynamic of the relationship. While reacting defensively might encourage more insults, responding with silence or calm indifference often diffuses the situation, signaling that you won't be dragged into petty conflict. Another Stoic principle that helps us deal with insults is the idea of empathy and understanding. Often when people insult others, it is a reflection of their own inner turmoil or insecurities. By understanding this, we can develop compassion instead of anger. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize?" This teaches us to look inward and recognize that we too have our faults. By understanding that others' insults may stem from their own pain or ignorance, we can respond, or not respond, with empathy rather than aggression. In fact, one of the highest forms of Stoic mastery is indifference to insult. This does not mean that we become apathetic or emotionless. Rather, it means that we reach a level of self-awareness and self-worth where external judgments no longer affect us. Our sense of identity and value comes from within, not from the approval or disapproval of others. When we achieve this level of indifference, insults lose all power over us. They become like the wind, blowing past us without leaving any lasting effect. It's also important to consider the long-term effects of our response to insults. Reacting angrily or defensively to every slight can create a pattern of behavior where we are constantly on edge, ready to defend ourselves at any moment. This is exhausting and can lead to unnecessary conflict. On the other hand, consistently choosing to remain calm and composed in the face of insults allows us to cultivate an inner peace that is unshakable. We become less reactive, more thoughtful, and ultimately more in control of our own lives. In conclusion, Stoicism teaches us that insults only have power if we allow them to. By choosing not to react impulsively, we maintain our inner calm and avoid unnecessary conflict. Silence in the face of insults is not a sign of weakness, but of strength and self-control. It allows us to rise above the pettiness of others, protect our peace, and stay true to our own values. Through practice and reflection, we can develop the emotional resilience needed to remain unaffected by the judgments and provocations of others, ensuring that our sense of self-worth remains intact, no matter what is said. In times of conflict is an inevitable part of life. Whether in personal relationships, professional settings, or even on a societal level, disagreements and tensions arise. While conflict itself isn't always avoidable, the way we respond to it can make a profound difference in the outcome. Stoicism teaches us that silence, used wisely, can be a powerful tool to prevent conflicts from escalating. By pausing before reacting, we give ourselves the chance to approach situations with clarity, composure, and wisdom. In moments of conflict, emotions often run high. Anger, frustration, fear, or anxiety can cloud our judgment, making it easy to say or do things that we later regret. Stoic philosophy emphasizes the importance of self-control, particularly in these moments of tension. The Stoic approach suggests that before reacting to a conflict, we take a moment of silence, a pause to reflect and regain control of our emotions. This pause is not an act of passivity, but a deliberate decision to ensure that our response is thoughtful and measured. Consider a common scenario. You're in the middle of a heated argument with a colleague or loved one. The conversation starts to escalate. Voices rise, and the urge to defend yourself or attack the other person becomes almost overwhelming. At this point, reacting impulsively will likely make things worse, leading to misunderstandings or hurt feelings. But if you pause, take a breath, and remain silent for a moment, you create space for both yourself and the other person to cool down. This brief silence can allow tempers to settle and prevent the conflict from spiraling out of control. In this way, silence becomes a tool for de-escalation. Instead of feeding into the emotional fire, you allow the situation to breathe. When you pause, you also give yourself time to assess the situation more clearly. What is the root cause of the conflict? Is this argument worth pursuing? What is the best course of action moving forward? By taking a moment of silence, you are better equipped to answer these questions calmly and rationally, rather than being driven by emotion. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus advised that we should not blame others for our own anger. In times of conflict, it's easy to place the blame on the other party for the tension. However, Stoicism teaches that we are responsible for our own reactions. External events, including the actions of others, are beyond our control. What we can control is how we respond to these events. By embracing silence before reacting, we take responsibility for our emotions, ensuring that we don't act in ways that we'll regret later. Another benefit of silence in conflict is that it provides an opportunity to listen more deeply. Often in the heat of an argument, we are so focused on what we want to say next that we stop truly listening to the other person. By pausing and remaining silent, we give ourselves the chance to listen, not just to the words being spoken, but to the emotions and needs behind those words. What is the other person really trying to communicate? Are they angry, hurt, or afraid? Understanding the emotions driving the conflict can lead to greater empathy and, ultimately, a more constructive resolution. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In the context of conflict, this means that the very tension or disagreement you face can be transformed into an opportunity for growth. By responding with silence and reflection rather than impulsivity, you can turn a potentially harmful situation into one that strengthens relationships and fosters understanding. Conflict, when approached with wisdom, can lead to greater connection and insight. Furthermore, silence during conflict is a way of practicing emotional detachment, a key Stoic principle. This doesn't mean that you ignore your emotions or pretend not to care. Instead, emotional detachment in Stoicism refers to the ability to observe your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. When you're in the midst of conflict, it's easy to let anger or frustration take control. But by pausing and staying silent, you can step back from these emotions, observe them, and choose not to let them dictate your actions. For example, if someone makes an unfair accusation against you, your immediate emotional response might be to defend yourself passionately or retaliate. But silence gives you the chance to reflect. Is this accusation truly worth your energy? Will defending yourself lead to a productive conversation, or will it simply escalate the conflict? In many cases, silence allows you to avoid engaging in unnecessary arguments that drain your energy and accomplish little. This practice of restraint doesn't mean that we avoid addressing conflicts altogether. Rather, it means that we approach them thoughtfully with the aim of resolving them in a constructive manner. By pausing and reflecting, we can decide when it's necessary to speak and when it's best to remain silent. Sometimes the best response is no response at all, as silence can serve as a powerful signal that you are not willing to engage in petty disputes or emotional games. Moreover, silence in conflict often leads to greater respect from others. When you remain calm and composed during a disagreement, those around you will notice. Over time, they may come to see you as someone who is steady, thoughtful, and not easily provoked. This can strengthen your relationships, both personally and professionally, as people learn to trust your ability to handle difficult situations with grace. Stoicism also teaches us to focus on long-term outcomes rather than short-term victories. In a conflict, it can be tempting to win the argument by proving the other person wrong or asserting your dominance. But Stoicism reminds us that true victory lies not in winning an argument, but in maintaining our virtue and inner peace. By choosing silence, we prioritize our long-term well-being and the health of our relationships over the temporary satisfaction of being right. Finally, silence in conflict allows us to maintain our sense of self-control, a central value in Stoicism. When we react impulsively to conflict, we give up control over our emotions and actions, allowing the situation to dictate our behavior. But when we remain silent and reflective, we retain control. We become the masters of our own responses, rather than being slaves to the emotions of the moment. In practice, here are some ways to incorporate Stoic silence in times of conflict. Pause before reacting. When you feel tension rising in a conflict, take a few deep breaths and allow yourself a moment of silence. This will help prevent an impulsive, emotional reaction. Listen more, speak less. Use silence as an opportunity to listen deeply to what the other person is saying. By fully understanding their perspective, you may find new ways to resolve the conflict peacefully. Assess the situation. During the pause, reflect on the situation. What is the root cause of the conflict? Is it worth escalating? What is the most constructive response? Respond thoughtfully. If and when you do choose to respond, do so calmly and with purpose. Avoid letting emotions drive your words. Instead, focus on resolving the issue in a way that aligns with your values. Know when to walk away. Some conflicts are simply not worth engaging in. If the argument is petty or the other person is not open to reason, silence may be the best course of action. Walking away from unnecessary conflict is a sign of strength, not weakness. In conclusion, Stoicism teaches us that silence is a powerful tool in times of conflict. By pausing before reacting, we can approach difficult situations with clarity and composure, ensuring that our responses are thoughtful and aligned with our values. Silence helps prevent unnecessary escalation, fosters deeper understanding, and allows us to maintain control over our emotions. In a world where conflicts are inevitable, the Stoic practice of silence enables us to navigate these challenges with wisdom, grace, and inner peace. Stoicism teaches us the art of silence, not as weakness, but as strength. By choosing when to speak and when to stay quiet, we can lead more peaceful and fulfilling lives. Try incorporating these Stoic lessons in your everyday interactions and notice the change.